Hi guys! Boy, have I got a treat for you. Today I'm making my version of this delicious Black Forest cake. Now the original Black Forest cake was created in Germany and is called the Schwarzwälder Kirschtorte. The original uses kirsch, a cherry liqueur, and in Germany this cake cannot be sold as a Black Forest cake unless it contains kirsch. In other parts of the world, different forms of alcohol is used to soak the chocolate sponge layers, and in many other parts of the world, alcohol is not used at all, like in my version. The Black Forest cake is alcohol-free, and it still remains so delicious because of the super moist and light texture of this delicious sponge cake. This decadent version of the Black Forest cake consists of 4 layers of super soft and delicious chocolate sponge cake with a combination of chocolate flavored as well as vanilla flavored whipped cream, chocolate shavings, and glazed cherries as well as fresh cherries for decoration. So first off, we're going to make our chocolate sponge cake. We need 10 cold eggs from the refrigerator and we're going to separate them. We're using 2 bowls to separate the yolks from the whites. I'm using a third bowl to make sure that there are no traces of yellow that fall into the white because the egg white must be completely free of any traces of yellow. So that's 8 yolks and 8 whites separated. Now we need 2 extra egg whites. And we have 10 egg whites and 8 egg yolks for this recipe. You can use the spare egg yolks to make an omelet. Cover and set aside to come down to room temperature. The next step is to process the caster sugar. Use the finest grain caster sugar that you can find, and by processing it for an additional 30 seconds, you get a really fine grained sugar, and this is essential for this recipe. Process from 30 seconds up to 1 minute depending on how fine the grain was to begin with. Next, we're going to sift our cake flour with salt and cocoa powder. I'm using a cup plus 2 tablespoons of cake flour, a half a teaspoon of salt, and a third of a cup of good quality Dutch processed cocoa powder. To get that super light texture for our sponge cake, we're going to sieve the cake flour, cocoa powder, and salt together repeatedly 3 times. First, we sieve into this wide bowl. Then, to make it easy, we drop it onto parchment paper and lift it up. And this makes it easier to drop it back into our sieve to sift again. And we repeat this twice. And that's 3 times total. Now you have a really nice and light flour. The next step of preparation before making this cake is to combine 2 tablespoons of store-bought orange juice without any pulp, along with 3/4 of a tablespoon of water to dilute it, and 1.5 teaspoons of pure vanilla extract, as well as half a cup of neutral flavored oil like sunflower oil, vegetable oil, or rice bran oil. All of these seem to work. Allow to come to room temperature. Preheat your oven now. Next, we're going to whisk our egg whites. Use a large bowl, and you can either use your mixer or your handheld egg beaters or your processor with a whisk attachment. Any of these will work. Add the egg whites to a clean bowl. Now it's really important that your beaters as well as the bowl is completely free from any residue before you start. Whisk the egg whites till they are frothy. Add 3/4 of a teaspoon of cream of tartar. Continue to beat till you get stiff peaks. And once you get stiff peaks, stop. Do not over whisk. This is what our stiff egg whites look like when they're done. Next, I'm going to beat my egg yolks with the fine granulated sugar that we prepared earlier. Now I'm using a separate bowl. I'm using my processor actually to beat the egg yolks with the sugar. You could just as well use another bowl with your same beaters that you use to make your egg whites. I just did them simultaneously to save time. If you are using the same egg beaters, you can wipe them down thoroughly before you begin. Whisk the egg yolks with the sugar until you achieve a really light, pale yellow color. This pale, beaten egg yolk and sugar mixture should give you temporary, ribbon-like streaks when lifted and dropped back over the top, like this. Now I'm just going to pour this into a large bowl to prepare our batter. Into this egg yolk and sugar mixture that you see here, I'm going to add the oil, juice, and vanilla mixture that we made earlier. Give it a good stir and add to the yolk mixture. Stir well till you get a homogeneous mixture. Into this, add the thrice sifted flour and cocoa mixture. A little bit at a time, using a spatula to fold it in. Keep folding in till all the flour mixture is added and you get a smooth batter. Lastly, we're going to fold in the whisked egg white into this flour batter. This should be done as quickly as possible without over mixing. This is important. We spent a lot of time to get the egg whites this stiff and we don't want to lose all that texture. I like to add a little bit of the stiffly beaten egg whites first and fold it in with a spatula till it's quite smooth. Then I add the remaining egg whites in a couple of batches and alternate between a whisk and a spatula to fold it in as quick as possible without over beating, just to get those lumps broken. You don't want big lumps of egg white in there, although a few specks of white is okay. So here we have our chocolate sponge cake batter ready. We're going to divide and pour this batter into two ungreased 8 to 9 inch aluminum cake pans equally. Tap the pans on the countertop a couple of times to get rid of air bubbles on the surface. I like to rest the pans for a couple of minutes. Now we're going to bake the cakes in a preheated oven for 30 to 35 minutes depending on your oven, until a toothpick inserted in the center comes out clean. Remove from the oven and invert onto elevated wire racks. This will prevent the cakes from sinking while they cool off. You can see how lovely our sponge cakes look. A good way to elevate the cakes is by using kitchen colanders like these, with a wire rack placed over them. Invert the cakes while still hot over the wire racks and leave aside to cool completely. Once the cakes are completely cool, use a sharp knife to go around the edge of the pans to release the cake onto flat plates or surface. You then want to slice each cake into two. To do this, you can use a sharp, wide, serrated knife or a cake leveler. If you don't have either of these, I find that the plastic serrated knife that you get along with birthday cakes works well too. I like to place the layers separated by parchment paper into the fridge to chill. This helps to make for a smoother frosting later when you're decorating. Now we're going to make the vanilla flavored whipped cream first. The vanilla whipped cream is used to frost the sides and top of the cake. To allow for a smoother finish that does not melt as easily, we will make a stabilized whipped cream using gelatin. To half a cup of water, I'm going to add 1.5 tablespoons of gelatin. This is just cool water. We're going to give it a stir and leave it to thicken for 1 minute. After which I'm going to microwave the gelatin mixture for 30 seconds or place in a saucepan of simmering water till the mixture dissolves like this, and then set aside to cool for 3 minutes. After which I'm going to add the cool gelatin mixture into half a cup of chilled whipping cream. Give this a good stir. Allow to cool off completely in the fridge for about 5 minutes, but do not allow it to set into a jelly. To a chilled bowl, add about 10 teaspoons of icing sugar or powdered sugar and 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla powder. Whisk till you get soft peaks. I'm whisking the cream over a bowl of ice or a bowl of ice water because I work in temperate climates. If you work in a cooler area, this is not necessary. Now I added the chilled gelatin and cream mixture that was in the fridge, and I'm continuing to whisk till I get a stiff cream again. Place this covered in the fridge. Remember that upon refrigeration, this gelatin-based whipped cream will thicken further. And now I'm going to make the lightly flavored chocolate whipped cream. Get another chilled bowl and chill beaters. Add 2 cups of the remaining chilled whipped cream. Another 10 teaspoons or so of icing sugar. And whisk briefly. Add 1 tablespoon of cocoa powder. I use Dutch processed. And 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla powder. Also add more sugar if desired at this point. Stop when you get a stiff whipped cream like this. Cover and keep chilled in the fridge till you need it to decorate. To decorate the Black Forest cake, we will need disposable cake plate, strips of parchment paper, and a decorating turntable. We'll also need about 1/2 cup of chopped glazed cherries. It's really important when choosing the glazed cherries that they taste good, and because some of the glazed cherries taste like cough medicine. So be sure to taste before you add your cherries. Add the cherries to the chocolate whipped cream, reserving some chocolate whipped cream to pipe around the edges of the cake later. With the rest of this cherry chocolate whipped cream, we're going to frost the layers of the sponge cake. The first 3 layers are going to be frosted with this chocolate whipped cream with cherries. So that's 1, 2, 3 layers of chocolate sponge covered with this chocolate cherry whipped cream. Now we place the topmost and final layer of chocolate sponge on top And this is going to be frosted with the vanilla flavored whipped cream. You'll find that sometimes when you take out the gelatin based vanilla whipped cream from the fridge, it can be a little stiff. In this case, just give it a quick whisk to get it smoother. Top the cake and the sides with this vanilla flavored whipped cream using an offset spatula. Get it as smooth as possible. It doesn't have to be perfect because it's going to be covered with the chocolate shavings anyway. Use a plastic froster like this to go around the edges and make it as smooth as possible. Now I'm going to set it in the fridge to chill completely so that the gelatinized whipped cream sets well. Now we're going to prepare our chocolate shavings for decorating the cake. I'm using dark chocolate, just plain dark eating chocolate. I'm using vegetable peeler to get the chocolate shavings. Here we have our chilled cake ready to be decorated. Cover the sides of the cake with the chocolate shavings first. Go all around, covering as much as possible. Again, I have strips of parchment paper so that I can clean up the cake board later easily. Once the sides are covered, I have the remaining vanilla whipped cream filled into these piping bags or pipers, and I'm just going to swirl, decorate with these swirls all around the cake. And place fresh cherries on each of the swirled pipings. Then fill the center of the cake with the remaining chocolate shavings. A piped swirl in the center. With glazed cherries on top for a bit of different decoration. It's good to wipe down the glazed cherries or the maraschino cherries so that the syrup doesn't leak all over the whipped cream. Oh, I missed a spot there. I'm going to take off these pieces of parchment paper. And that's a really yummy Black Forest cake for you. Isn't that beautiful? And you don't have to be a pro decorator to make it either. You'll find that this cake is so delicious. The sponge cake is super moist and soft, and the whipped cream and the cherries, everything together, it just makes for a decadent and delicious cake. I hope you give it a try. I do believe that I forgot to mention that I went all around the bottom edge of the cake with the remaining plain chocolate whipped cream. I piped all around with this, as you can see here, just to make it all that much prettier. I hope you enjoyed this video. I enjoyed making it for you, for sure. As always, all the details on the recipe and the measurements are available in the link given below. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.